When I was making that, definitely did not think it was gonna have as many views. I think every time you make a video, you try to aim for it to catch because you want as many people to see it as possible.
That's just another form of business, right? That you're like, hey, you thought being a dentist was hard? Try to run 2 other businesses at the same time, right?
But yeah, I think, for this video, I was sharing common struggles in the industry, but a lot of that stuff was stuff I went through.
Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more new patients so you can grow the way that you want. And I'm going to be honest with you, today is a very somber show because it's about a very serious topic and one that impacts everybody in the dental industry and one that most people can understand. And today I have Dr. Avi Patel, who's been a doctor at over 11 offices over his years. He's never owned an office. He's always been an associate. And we're going to talk about a really hard subject about dentists deleting themselves, and it's just a subject that really breaks my heart every time that I think about it. He recently had an interview that he did, or a video that he did, that got over 500,000 views and on this particular subject, and it's really the only one online that's gotten views like that. And it's because most people just aren't willing to have this conversation. The good news is he walks through and gives us a framework of the 6 things you need to do to create an environment that will encourage dentists and help them go forward in strength and not discourage them and lead them to doing something that's devastating or harmful. So you're going to want to stay tuned for this one. We don't have conversations like this normally, but I think it's important. All right, Dr. Avi, I'm excited to talk to you today because you recently had a viral video. I mean, it went insanely viral. And, sometimes I have YouTube shorts. I had a YouTube short recently do almost 4 million views, but this is a long form video and it has over 500,000 views and people are watching 11, 12 minutes of content. And I think the reason that it went so viral, I was looking through some of your other videos, and so your other videos do great as well, but not anywhere even close in the stratosphere of this. And I think it was because of the subject, which was about dentists. And I'll use this term just for the algorithms, dentists deleting themselves. And basically what you shared was, and you did it in a way that I haven't really seen anybody else do, is that you talked about, okay, dentists are deleting themselves. And here's the hard part about dentistry. And you shared kind of the thing that everybody knows about dentistry. Like you talk about insurance and labor shortages and associate doctors who are getting scammed by their dentists. They're not getting paid by the corporations that they're working for, or they have people stealing their treatment. And you went through all these list of things, which are all prevalent and everybody's aware of. And then you kind of explain the problem with dentists that they're facing, why they're deleting themselves, is that because of a lot of these problems, right? This is it adds so much stress and the amount of work and all those kind of things. So I just reached out to you because we've talked before, and I was just like, let's talk about this. I kind of want to hear this in more of a long form a conversation from your perspective, because you are a dentist, you are experiencing these things, and finally it's resonating with people. I've never seen a viral video around this subject.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought me on. Honestly, when I was making that, definitely did not think it was gonna have as many views. I think every time you make a video, you try to you try to aim for it to catch because you want as many people to see it as possible. But yeah, I think, for this video, it was mainly, I was sharing common struggles in the industry, but a lot of that stuff was stuff I went through, like me. And I've been a dentist for 5 years now. I talked about my expectations as what life could be as a dentist, and why I chose to be a dentist. And I think it lines up with a lot of other dentists out there. But for the video itself, I just tried to, because you always hear it, right? Like you always, it's people deleting themselves in dentistry. It's like, it's one of the things that's been linked for years. But I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if anyone else has kind of made a video where they just share their own experiences and they kind of bring to light all these things. And for me, I didn't get into that headspace. I said that on the video too. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was considering doing anything of the sorts, but I went through so many difficulties so early in my career to where I was just kind of like, this sucks. And like,
you could see how somebody else could think that way, right?
Well, and I also see the thought patterns and the decision making as to why so many other dentists out there nowadays do what they do. Like going through an associateship where an owner is poaching your cases and you are being handcuffed, and not from a lack of talent or ability, from strictly a like, because I know that exists. Like I know sometimes younger dentists aren't equipped with the skills to do procedures. I'm talking about malicious intent where owner dentists are taking procedures from the younger like from the associate because they want to fill their schedule, which from a business standpoint is, it's just so dumb and it's so backwards because an owner makes money off of their associate. So you want your associate to be busy. We've talked about this before, but that's where it's just like, well, if a business owner is making a bad business decision, and this is in the culture of many owner dentists, you start to dig deeper. It's like, okay, they're not actually thinking from a logical standpoint. This is emotional. This is ego. This is something deeper. And it's probably, and I call it the toxic cycle of dentistry. They probably had this happen to them when they were younger. Right?
Yeah,
they probably had it happen to them. They went off. They're like, you know what? I can do this by myself. I can do this better. I'm going to go be an owner. So I have autonomy and my life's going to be great. But they have zero inkling on what it means. Like they have no business experience. All they did was they graduated high school, undergrad, went to dental school, and then, had one or two crappy associateships where an owner took cases from them and then they thought that they're qualified to be business owners. So it's like, that's the cycle. And then it repeats itself. And so part of like, and at the end of this video, I'm pretty sure I brought it up where it's like, one of the things that I'm kind of starting to talk about is like, I think there needs to be less full-time dentists. Like, I think there needs to be less people coming out doing full-time dentistry because one, I don't think dental school is preparing every dentist to be the most successful dentist and the best, right?
100%.
Obviously, with any profession, there's a bell curve, right? You're going to have people who are really bad, average, and really good. And I just think for this profession to start making strides moving forward, I think if you have more people who are not that good, just doing less of it, it opens the room for those clinicians and those business owners who have systems, who have efficiencies, who have really good clinical skills to be able to then take up more of the market, which is another way to improve it, right?
Hey, Happy New Year, and thanks so much for listening to the podcast. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got something really, really important to share with you that's going to bring massive impact to your practice. So every year, things change in your market. Every single year, people move, incomes change, populations change, and it's really important that you stay up to date with that. And one of the things that we offer to all of our customers, and we want to offer it to all of our listeners completely for free, is mapping out your new patients. So we're not going to only show you where your new patients are coming from on a map, just like this above, but we're also going to show you the income areas that they're coming from, the different pockets of income, as well as the populations to make sure that you have supporting areas to where you can attract more new patients. And lastly, we're going to map out all of your competition for you for free. This is 100% for free, no obligation. And we're really excited to share this with all of our listeners. So all you have to do is go to maps.smcnational.com, and it's first come, first serve. We're not going to offer this forever. So if you want to get this, get in now, get all your new patients mapped out for the new year. We're looking forward to talking to you soon. Thanks. Yeah. So there's several thoughts on that because, so if you have less full-time dentists, what does that mean? So let's play that all the way out. So you have less full-time dentists, more part-time dentists, or dentists that are working several different locations with several different organizations, right? So they're like part-time here, part-time here, part-time there. Because not all of them are going to be able to do what you do, where it's like, yeah, I work part-time and I sell courses and stuff like that. Like That's just another form of business, right? That you're like, hey, you thought being a dentist was hard? Try to run two other businesses at the same time, right? So it's like, so like, let's play that out. What does that look like? What does that world look like? First for the dentist, but then for the patient.
So for the dentist, I think what it does is here's the thing, right? Dentists are humans, first and foremost. Before these humans go into dental school, right? They are unique. They all have different backgrounds. They all have different interests, different passions. Then they go into dental school and then they get put into this box, right? And then this box limits their abilities, or so they think, their perceived abilities, right? And so when you have people who are practicing on a part-time basis, it opens up the door to them being able to pursue other passions. Yes, some people can go and do the online course route. I look at the online course route as an amazing way to elevate the profession because you're able to mentor, provide education, and solve problems. But like you said, that's not for everybody. For other people, it could be other passions, other hobbies, things that are lighting them up, right? Again, I don't have a solution for how they can make money on that stuff, but there are plenty of people out there who can teach you how to make money off of your passions. And then also what that does is it could also just give them space to go learn. Like, level up as a clinician. Like you may not be that good, but now you actually have the time and the space to go and dedicate, right? Just because you're working part-time doesn't mean like the other part of your life you're not doing anything. Like you could use that to level up. And then from a patient standpoint, what I see it is it's just like because this is more of trying to solve the solution also for higher quality dentistry, right? And I know you have a big background working with DSOs and whatnot, but like if you're coming from these like private offices and some of these clinicians who have invested like hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide dentistry that is like insane and incredible, I think you open the door for that to become more available.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so there's high quality of care.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. So let's think about this. So you brought up the groups, right? So a lot of the people who are listening are like the people who are listening to this podcast own 5 practices. They may or may not be a dentist, right? Maybe they're sitting in a C-suite, or they're a marketer, or they're doing some kind of leadership position in that group. They got 5 to 10 locations. They probably have a goal to go to about 100 or 50 or whatever, right? What can we help them understand when dealing with associates? Because it's like you said, it's like this cycle of abuse. We see this all the time with people who are like sexual offenders, where they go out and they get in trouble and they get caught, they go to jail, and then the news comes and interviews them, and what happened? Well, when I was a kid, this is what happened to me, and then I acted that out on other people. So what can we do to like stop that cycle? Like part-time dentist, or maybe not as much pressure, but how do we actively do that?
I think if an organization who truly wants to break this cycle, what you have to do is you have to genuinely give these young associates an ideal environment, or as close to ideal. Support them when they're young, because if you do that, they will stay with you much longer than, they would if you were to shortchange them on something, right? And it's like,
so let's define that, because here's what I know what some older people are going to think, right? Because there's a generational gap here that we're talking through.
You got to do it yourself.
Yeah, you got to pull up your bootstraps. What do you mean give you something? I gave you a paycheck, you do the work, and then you fill in the gaps. That's how I did it, right? So and you're saying so
what I have to say to that is, because that's how you did it is why we're in the problem we're in today. Because you made this entire industry reliant upon an individual's ability to pull up their bootstraps and go do it. Well, guess what? This industry is not attracting that. That message is not clear. It's not being advertised to the world like, hey, go to dental school and pull up your bootstraps even after you come out. It's this dentist lifestyle where it's very much perceived like, oh, you get to live a cushy job, you get to work a couple days a week. Like, so stop. If you're gonna, right, it's all marketing, right? This profession is marketed as if it is actually not that difficult. And then when the going gets tough early on, older dentists love to say, oh, well, I had to do this, so you should too. And it's like, or we could come up with a solution where we can all acknowledge, which we all do, which is dental school is not a sufficient amount of education to be a good dentist. Hence why these dentists have to invest so much money into programs. If you are an organization that has multiple offices and you have access to capital, why not actually invest in upfront education? And don't try to turn these people.
Okay, perfect. That's perfect. So we're saying let's make an ideal work environment, and an ideal doesn't mean you work super hard, I'll pay you, and that's it. Like what's that look like? So number one is upfront education.
Yep. So and this is with any business, and this is something that I'm learning in my own business, is take your ideal person, right? The person who you're trying to serve, help, whatever it is. Identify the number one issue that they're facing today, right? And solve for that. And so if I'm an organization, let's call it DSO, and my ideal person is like a young associate, right? You want an associate. Well, the number one thing they need is education and some type of mentorship. Now, how do you dial down education and mentorship? When you come out of school, you don't know how to sell cases. You don't know case acceptance. You don't know what you can or can't do. So how about you just teach that? It sounds very elementary, but I think if you focus on that and you have a way to teach these dentists how to talk to patients, how to identify cases they can do, and very basic. I'm not saying like throw an implant course at them or something like third molar extraction. No, they still need to polish. They were in school for 4 years and they were learning the basics of clinical. They did not get a single course on how to actually talk to a patient and like get them to accept treatment. Guess what? If your associate can't convert on treatment, you don't have a business. You don't, right? So I think
So finding the education that will make us mutually, that'll be mutual beneficial, right? So sometimes, and you can correct me on this, sometimes there's education that we're like, where the owner doctor or whoever's running the organization's like, that doesn't directly benefit us. You're going to learn this skill. So you need to find the educational pieces that are going to benefit both of us and help us both advance. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yep. And I think, and the thing is there's a domino effect, because when you're a young dentist and you learn something like how to talk to patients, get case acceptance or treatment planning, right? The simple concept of what can versus can't do, you then get confidence. And now when you're working from a place of confidence, even if it's a smaller circle or a smaller zone, that confidence then translates to other things. Now, all of a sudden, now you're looking to be more efficient with what you currently do. So it's like mastering the levels. Like, stop trying to go from level 0 to level 10. How about you just go from 0 to 1 and then get really good at 1, and then go to 2, get really good at 2, and then go to 3. And so
so if I
it doesn't
hear
need
you,
to be
step
this
number
robust
2 is
thing.
having a clear roadmap. So step number 1 is let's educate right out of the box, because everybody needs it and everybody wants it and everybody's paying for it themselves. So instead of doing that, provide it for them, right? So say, hey, if you come and work for us, here's what we're going to teach you how to do, and that's included. Yep. And then step number 2 to create a good working environment for your associates sounds like having a roadmap for them. Here's how we're going to check that roadmap. Don't a lot of people already do that though? Don't a lot of people are like, hey, here's the roadmap? Or no? Okay, so let's walk through that one.
So that one, and so that, like, Mark Costas has a great one that I saw him talk about, where it's like the onboarding experience for an associate. The number of practices that actually don't have a formal onboarding and stick to it is nuts, because I've worked at 11 offices and only 2 have had a formal onboarding experience. And I've worked at DSO, Medicare, private, PPO,
You've done everything.
all the above.
Yeah, you've done everything. Yeah.
And only 2 had it, which is nuts. And I think when you actually slow down as an owner and take the time to build that out, the trickle down effect is a lot more confidence in your team, in your associate, because everybody knows what they need to do. Like, just as much as you preach, like, as all these docs preach systems for your admin and front and this and that, like, yeah, you need a system to onboard an associate. And if you don't have one, you're going to lose them, because they don't know what to do. They're going to probably do something. They'll screw it up. They'll freak out. Their confidence is shot. And then now they're underproducing. You're upset. And then, you guys end up parting ways. And then they go and think they can open a practice because they think you were the problem, not them. And then you've got the cycle going again.
And then you cycle.
So yeah, you got to have.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Have you ever read The First 90 Days? Have you ever read that book?
No.
It's really good. It's about onboarding executives, but it would translate perfectly to dentist. And it's amazing. The first 90 days. And it's like, if you do these things in the first 90 days, you keep high value talent. If you don't do these things in the first 90 days, you lose the high value talent. The first 90 days is everything. And then it walks you through what things to focus on. So education that's going to mutually benefit both of us. So if I'm walking through this, I'm saying, how do I help associates so it's not stressful for them, so they don't go and hurt themselves or do something else? How do I do that? And how do I keep them around? So education, roadmap. What would you say would be number 3 to create a good working environment for an associate?
Empowerment. So I think empowerment looks like once you've supported them, and once you've kind of got them going, there's gonna be this aspect of growth. Like, let them choose how they want to grow. Not everybody wants to go do implants. Not everybody wants to go do aligners. Not everybody wants to go, do whatever pediatric stuff. Like, everyone's different. So empower them to choose how they want to level up, and then support that as well. Because if you think about it, this is the strategy to acquire, nurture, and then keep really good associate talent, right? And as a younger associate, you are going to want to learn eventually. And then or you may not, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, empower them to make their decision and like be okay with that.
What about, how does that fall in? Because the first things that I always hear about that DSOs want to do or groups want to do for their associates is give them mentorship. They're like, you got to give mentorship. And you and I've already talked about that. We have a whole podcast on no one does it. It sounds good until the dentist is busy doing treatment. And then it's like, here, stand here and watch me do treatment why you don't make money, right? And it's just like, okay. So there's mentorship. And then number 2, they always say partnership opportunities, right? You kind of saw a shift where all these DSOs tried to grow with just associate dentists, but then they'd leave. So then they were like, let's give them the golden handcuffs is what it's called. You give them equity in your business to keep them around. Is that part of empowerment too? Or what
I think it could be. I think it could be. Yeah, because I think that could help solve for the ones who actually do want to kind of step into more of that ownership leadership role, and then they can choose that. So then, if you have an arm of your business that can support that 100%. I also think if you, what was I going to say? That whole mentorship thing, like just actually have a plan, like maybe have a dedicated person for that, and actually create that mentorship roadmap, right? Like have somebody dedicated to it. Don't just make it part of somebody's job. Make it somebody's job.
Yeah, so that would be like the chief dental officer, right? That's their only job is to work with dentists.
And this is not just a check-in. This is not a, hey, how are you doing? How are things? Oh, your numbers are looking good, or your numbers are low, or what do you want to work on? It's like, no, like they should be able to come, the chief dental officer could, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, like identify maybe 3 different types of dentists, like the owner dentist, the highly functional clinical one, and then the in-office leadership one, whatever it is, and then create a roadmap on what they need to learn to get there, like, and identify it, like sit down with them from the beginning, like what kind of dentist do you want to be? Oh, I want to be the best clinician. Cool. This is how we're going to take you there, right? Or reverse engineer it from that ideal avatar, who they want to be. Yeah. You do that, now you have a plan. Now, because if you want to be a good clinician and I'm sitting here trying to teach you about the business side of things, you're not going to care.
Yeah, you're like, I don't care how much you get charged for the part from BioHorizons. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, like, I want to learn how to do like, wisdom teeth extractions. It's like, cool. Like, so just support that.
Yeah. So I'd probably put that avatar number 1, because it's like, okay, we're going to educate people, right? But how are we educating? Who are we actually educating them? So that's going to decide the road. And then, so you got avatar, you got your education, you have an actual roadmap inside of each of those. You have empowerment, and you have mentorship. And you have
I do think the caveat is up front, you got to give them a little bit of that foundation, because in the beginning, everybody wants, like, you don't really know, right? It's like kind of when you're in high school, nobody really knows what they want to be. So it's like when you're a dentist coming, you don't know what type you want to be, and
you just present all of them, and you say, hey, we probably all of these look attractive, each of these roadmaps, and you may not be able to choose right now, and that's totally fine. But when you are ready to choose, here's the roads that we have for you. And here's the pros and cons of each road. Leadership is great. You make more money, but way more responsibility, and you have to manage people. You may or may not like that. Some people like that. Some people don't. Here's another road where it's more clinically focused. Again, lots of money there too. Lots of opportunities. You get to level up clinically. But you're not going to manage people, and you're not going to have as much influence over the practice, et cetera, and so on and so forth. So I absolutely agree with you. Helping young people make decisions through frameworks, right? And I think that's one of the things that really challenges the generation that we're at. I actually made a video about this, and people got really mad at me and got really negative comments, but it was basically this. I feel bad for the generation today, and I feel like a lot of them are stuck, not just dentists, everybody, every young person, because we have too many options. Last night, I'm sitting on my TV, and I jump between 5 or 6 different streaming services with unlimited options. I used to think, when I had cable and it was all on one stream, I used to think, man, I wish I could just watch whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I didn't have to wait for it. Now I have it, and there's nothing to watch. And I'm like, why do I have
you end up not watching anything for half an hour.
I watched Netflix, the previews. You know how you go through each one and you watch. I watched previews for an hour doing nothing because I had too many choices. Yeah. And it's like, so I got what I thought I wanted, but in reality, I don't have anything anymore because I have unlimited choices.
And bringing that into dentistry, it's like dentistry kind of fits that, like, right? Like being a dentist, you have full freedom to be whatever you want, right? An entrepreneur, like it's one of, right? It's a health profession that there are the most entrepreneurs like in it. And it's kind of like you can make it as you want, but because there's no framework, because there's no structure, because there's no path, I just think you got a bunch of people that have just been like meddling around, and like, it's just, you're not moving the industry forward.
Yeah, this is really good. This is a really good breakdown, man. I think this will help a lot of people. And I know that's what you're trying to do. I know you're not trying to, like, some people are like, no, DSOs are the problem, or no, solo practitioners are the problem, or we need more consolidate. We need this or we need that. I know that's not what you're trying to do. You're just like, hey, how can we get better together?
Yeah. And I don't have all the answers. This podcast episode, like, I mean, it's got me fired up, as you could tell, but it's like, I I'm super pumped for what's to come because like now that I've retired clinically and I'm focusing full time on the online business and
That's so cool.
sure, my aligner program is one part of it, but like, dude, there's bigger problems that I'm trying to solve. And I just know that I'm not gonna be able to do it myself. So
Yeah.
having conversations like this, I think helps everybody.
100%. Plug your aligner program that you guys do. I would love for people to know about that.
Yeah. So basically, got an online clear aligner training program. It's comprehensive, and the way to find it is you can go to clearalineradvisor.co or just Google search aligner launchpad. That's the name of it. And then on social media, I provide aligner tips and I share my thoughts on the dental industry pretty much every day. My handle is dr.avi.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on, having this tough conversation. Thank you for the video that you made. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. 5 years ago, you couldn't find anything on this topic online. Now we're starting to see.
I think when I searched the title, I think you have one on this, and then like a couple other people, and then I was like, all right.
And I tell people like, guys, I'm the marketing guy. I tread very lightly in this. I work from home and I walk on a treadmill and have Zoom meetings all day. Like I have stress, but it's not at the same level. So I'm happy to talk about it, but it's like people like you that are actually going to make a change in it.
Well, and one thing for me that I'm like facing now, right, is like when I made that video, I was practicing, but like now it's like I'm not. But at the end of the day, like my experiences are my experiences, and like no one can take that away from me. And I mean, I've been documenting my journey, for the last like 2 years. So it's a matter of like, cool, how do we like get solutions instead of just complaining, as some people would call it.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.